right, everyone. Hello and welcome back. We are here with our episode number 7. They're coming fast and furious here. It's hard to believe that not too long ago we just started this up and we're hitting episode number 7 already here. But we're here, episode number 7. We're doing sleepers and gambles, and we're going to talk a little bit about the gauntlet. I hinted at that a little bit last week, and I finally finished that out. So I'll mention that a little bit after. But first of all, let's we'll pass it off to our co-host Armand. Obviously myself here. We got Armand as well. Armand, how we doing today?
Pretty good. Non-fantasy. I'm pretty happy to be out golfing again. It's blistering hot here in PA today, but it's better than -40. So
Yeah, not wrong. I got actually, speaking of golf, I just got back not too long ago. Went and swung the sticks at Cook. Nothing too proud to write home about, but yeah, I guess a bad day on the golf course is better than a good day at work, I guess. So it was nice to be out on the course. So I guess before we get started here with our insiders and headliners, we got a few things to take care of. We're going to talk about our home draft, our home league that I'm the commission with Armand and Zach, who was on the show last week and the week prior. We're in that league together, and it was our home league draft. So we're going to go over that a little bit. But man, first thing I'm going to mention about that draft, what a gong show that turned out to be. Hey, Armand, like, we were all
yeah,
fired up, ready to go for it. First couple picks flew off the board. Group chat was barking. Everybody was ready to go. And then it was just an absolute gong show. We had in our draft, we do a 6-hour draft per pick, so that way guys can negotiate trades, or if they want, they can, if they're busy with work and stuff like that, make the pick after or whatever. But I mean, obviously, guys aren't too happy when you take the full 6 hours, but sometimes it is what it is. But we had a guy pull the pin on the league halfway through our draft. So obviously, myself as the new commish, this wasn't ideal. I was picking 102, then I picked 105. I knew who 106 was picking, and then this guy was supposed to be picking 107. And there's a lot of speculations because I had the 108, and I'm like, man, I wonder who's going to get to me. And I was really hoping Devonta Smith, but at that point I was like, okay, it's either Devonta Smith or Waddle. I'm happy with either one. I don't really care. But then all of a sudden, 6-hour time limit goes by, no pick. And a little bit of context. Unfortunately, this guy just got a little bit too busy for the league, but wasn't answering in the group chat. We made the group chat, and he hadn't commented in it since 2017. Guys are messaging me as a commissioner, like, hey, man, like, I'm trying to get a hold of this guy. It's not working out. And unfortunately, just I've never seen that before where mid-draft, the guy, I finally got a hold of him, and he pulled the pin mid-draft. So had to go back and try and add some picks, and it was a gong show. And as one of my first major things having to do as a commish, it was oh man, it was a bit of a headache. We were running it, and it ended up being 3-4 days it took us to do this draft because of this gong show. And we were talking. It was like during work, after work. Armin and I have been coaching football. We're back up and running here a little bit in Prince Albert doing some minor football. And we were talking at football, like, what the hell's going on here, man? Like, trying to run scenarios. Like, if he does this, we got to do this. If he doesn't do this, and we're going to kick one of the league. And then I ended up getting a hold of him. He's like, no, I'm pulling the pin. It's like, oh man, like, headaches were
at least you avoid the awkward conversation with him pulling the pin himself. So
yeah, it was kind of one of those ones where, like, dad mode. Like, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. So I was like, hey man, like, what's going on here? He's like, yeah, sorry, I'm busy. I'm like, okay, thank God. Like, a little bit of a damper, I guess, on our draft because we all get pretty excited for it. But let's run through it here. Armin, maybe you want to tell everybody about how your draft went, and maybe if you had to give yourself a letter grade, what would you give yourself on the draft?
all right, well, letter grade. Let's see here. I'd probably give myself a B plus on it. I think I left some stuff out there that I could have benefited from. I had the 103, 203, 303, and 403, so all my own picks going in. Um, and I ended up trading away that 203 for Irv Smith Jr. and I traded away Jonnu Smith in it, and I got also Preston Williams in that pick or in that deal as well. Um, and I did get a fourth, right? Let's see. No, I gave away a second and a third.
Yeah,
Um,
third next year.
yeah. That trade wouldn't have happened had I not passed up an opportunity that I think I shouldn't have. Um, I had a deal on the table where I would have got the 104 and the 205, and I would have been trading away Kyler Murray, and I think that was it.
In a single Q league, obviously that's
Yeah,
our home league. So
yeah,
the unfortunate thing with that deal too, like we talked about when we were in negotiations, we were talking through the names that were left, and neither of us really expected all of a sudden 2 picks to be skipped. So that 203 essentially turned into a 201. So it turned into like we thought the tier break was going to happen in that 14th, 15th pick. And then all of a sudden the tier break got pushed back an extra 2 picks. So the guy that we like, well, we both, Armin even texted me right after. He goes, "Oh man, I'm kind of having trade remorse here." And he goes, "If Terrace Marshall ends up being that pick, I'm gonna be pissed." And that's where the tier break ended up falling because of
yeah.
the guy kind of bailing partway through. And yeah, I guess we'll fill it in. We ended up having to skip his picks, but then as soon as he mailed it in, we paused the draft, gave him picks after that, kind of like the whole Minnesota thing in the NFL draft a handful of years ago is kind of a similar situation. That, but anyway, sorry, I'll let you continue going on your draft there. Sorry.
All right, so yeah, and in the end, I am satisfied with Irv Smith Jr. The more I analyze it, at first I was like, "Frick, I made a mistake losing Terrace Marshall, Jonnu Smith, Irv Smith Jr. How big is the difference going to be?" But thinking about Irv Smith Jr. is, well, I got my homer guy now. Cook's too expensive to get by. Jefferson's too expensive to buy. So at least I got a Minnesota guy I can cheer for and have on my dynasty team. And then the other thing is he's 3 years younger than Jonnu and about to break out in the same year.
And
So
we're both pretty high on the old Irv Smith train on this
yeah,
podcast here. So
yeah. So I'm I'm happy having a longer competitive window with him. And then also I drafted Kyle Pitts at 103, which I'm really happy about. So I'm set at tight end for quite a few years now and don't ever have to worry about it for a while, hopefully.
yeah. Then the
Barring
303
any
position,
big setbacks.
the 303 position, you put your money where your mouth is. You take your boy Chaba.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy about that, he has tremendous upside, especially compared to the other RBs that were being drafted around him or just before him. He has a higher pedigree, higher production in college. He had one down year here where he had an injury and it was COVID. I don't think you can fault him for him not being as efficient as he was, but he was still putting up decent numbers. So like you've said before, Carrier, the cream always rises to the top, and
Yeah.
I think he's going to. The Panthers will find a way to use him,
Yeah.
and still give CMC his touches as well. So I I like the pick there. Tremendous upside. And then I ended up trading away my 403, so I only ended up doing 2 picks during this whole 5-day draft here while I was watching the whole thing. But I was really happy with it. At 403, I didn't really like any of the guys, and I traded it away for a fourth round pick next year and carry on Johnson. I think Johnson's ceiling is just as high as any of the guys being drafted there, and people forget that he is pretty young yet. He's turning 24 in June here, and I'll know sooner than I will with those fourth round draft picks whether or not I do want to keep him around. Um, it's not like he's a developmental piece I'll know right away. So then I'll have room for a waiver wire pickup beginning of the season if I don't need him anymore.
Yeah, like we talked about before the pod, you can cut slack on him really quick. He's got the
Yeah.
short leash, if you're gonna run with him or not, especially with that Philly backfield.
Yeah. So big picture during the draft here, I traded Jonnu Smith and Godert away pretty much. I turned Jonnu into Irv Smith Jr., which is higher upside there. I turned Godert into Preston Williams. I'm flush at tight end. I also have Hunter Henry there and Eric Ebron. So flush there. So I didn't need Godert, even though he's going to break out. I love him as a player. But I have another receiver that I hope will kind of throwing mud against the wall, hoping for something to stick here at receiver at the moment. And
My
then I
my my draft situation here, I guess I'm in most of my leagues, I don't draft often because I trade a lot of picks, especially for my teams in the most recent current positions. They were, I wouldn't say win now, but I was making moves at the deadline to add players to try and give myself that push. So I was always trading away my draft picks. In the last couple of years, I haven't been drafting that much. And this year, I think I made up for lost time as I ended up before the end of the draft was done. I ended up having 9 picks, so it was I had a lot of draft capital, and I think looking at it, I'm gonna give myself a rating. I think of A. I can't give the A plus because I mean, I obviously there's always opportunity for better, but I think A is pretty strong because I look at it and I got the guys I wanted. There's times where I hemmed and hawed, and there's times where it's like, okay, I want one of these 2 guys, and then the guy I wanted more went before I picked. But then the day you can only react to what the draft's going to give you. And when I look at my list, I got my guys. So I think even an A plus, it could be in the realm here. So at the 102 position, I drafted Najee Harris. The 105, I drafted Javonte Williams. The 108, I ended up getting Devonta Smith. 203, I got Terrace Marshall Jr. 209, I got Amon-Ra St. Brown. 304, I got Dwayne Eskridge. I got my little sleeper pick there. Had the same thing. I had to put the money where the mouth is on that one. 309, I got Diami Brown. 402, I got Mac Jones. That's the one where it's like I didn't really need it, but Mac Jones in the 4th, that's tremendous upside. And I was like, okay, well, who else do I really want this position? Do I need? I was thinking Tylan Wallace maybe, but I was so set at receivers where, okay, well, maybe if Mac Jones kind of booms it. So that's the one that kind of holds me back from maybe giving myself the A plus. I didn't really need it, but at the same time, there wasn't really anything I really, really wanted or liked at that point. But and then the 405, I got Javian Hawkins. And that was when I texted Armand before. I said, I have a hunch. I mean, it could be the same thing. I could drop him right away, but he has the potential to be this year's late round undrafted rookie pick, or either your late round rookie draft, or the undrafted picking up a waiver wire, because he was a UDFA as well too. He wasn't drafted, and Atlanta picked him up, and we know the Atlanta situation right now. They tried to get Kerryon Johnson on the waivers, but they had the lower waiver, Philly had the lower waiver priority than Atlanta. So obviously Atlanta's looking for the answers. So that means that they're not all in at this moment with Davis. But I think maybe Javian Hawkins, if he lights it up at camp, then he might be able to sneak his way into that starting position. Maybe we have this year's James Robinson, or this year's Phillip Lindsay, right? So it seems like there's one of the bunch every single year, and who knows, in the 4th round, it's just a crapshoot regardless. So I'm hoping maybe this year I'm going to strike some gold with that UDFA. So I ended up having the 9 picks, and I mean, I was thin at running back, so I ended up getting only 2 high quality, and the 2 that I had rated the highest. So once again, the draft kind of fell to me. Etienne went at the 104. So it made my decision easy. At 105, I was going to take Javonte. The only other person I would have maybe considered was going receiver and going Devonta Smith, just because I'm high on Devonta. But I need the running back, and Smith ended up falling until the 108 anyway. So it ended up kind of working out my favor, partially because the 107 debacle of guy not coming. But I would have been like, that same thing. I would have been happy with Waddle or Smith. I think it was just Zach was the one that really reaped the rewards there, because he was the 109. And if Waddle and Smith was gone, then he's probably reaching for Bateman maybe, or it was one of those, the tier break, right? We called the tier break there. Zach snuck his way inside that tier break of the top end players.
Once the timer expired, wasn't Zach just texting you like, hurry
make
up,
the pick. Hurry up. But we'll see. You know, you can leave the rookie draft really happy, or you can leave the rookie draft real sour, and things can turn sideways in a hurry. So once the NFL season gets started, we'll be ready to talk shop and see where we actually finish. But I guess before we get started, let's talk about the gauntlet. Okay, so I'll explain to everybody about the gauntlet. We were kind of, I can't remember when this even started, Armin, but we were him and Han, I think, at work one day. I said, I should do something about like that we can talk about the podcast. I should try and make a trade with every single person in our league. So like, if you haven't seen, obviously, the Avengers, so you know what the gauntlet is, like the Infinity Stones added to the Infinity Gauntlet here, where every time I made a trade, I got added to the Infinity Gauntlet here. So it started off when I made a trade with a guy that actually I co-own a team with in our high stakes league. He's in our and this is all obviously in the league, like commission, and I'm with Armand. I decided that I'm going to rebuild. My team was middling, potentially win now, but I was on the outsides looking in. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to blow it up. I'm going to rebuild. I'm going to get younger, and then we're going to do this thing from the ground up. So I moved. I made nine trades, 9 teams, and I made a couple other trades with like multiple trades with a few people here as well too. But I'll just list it off here in order of the guys I gave away and then the guys I received. So some of the guys I gave away I had received in deals. So I told Armin, I said, out of the 30 guys I had on my roster last year, I only have 5 of them remaining. So my team is fresh, restart, hit the restart button. But so I gave away Devontae Adams, Julio Jones, Myles Gaskins, Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette, Melvin Gordon, Raheem Mostert, Cooper Kupp, a 2021 sixth, and a 2021 301. Or sorry, not 2026, 2021 206, a 2021 301. I traded away a 2020 second rounder. I traded away Tyler Johnson. I traded away Austin Eckler. I traded away a 2021 305, a 2022 fourth. I traded away DJ Moore. I traded away Taysom Hill, Josh Jacobs, a 2021 106, James Robinson, and Kendrick Bourne. So those are the players I had traded in my 9-team absolute just let it go gauntlet, get the Affinity Stones. Then I ended up making a couple other trades where I got gave away Preston Williams and Irv Smith, gave away Paris Campbell, and then gave away Henry Ruggs and Jonas Smith, who I literally received like the day prior. Now, talk about the players I received. Keep in mind, some of the players I received earlier in this list, I did deal as well. A.J. Brown, Deontay Johnson, 2021 301, 2021 305, 2021 108, and a 2022 first. And then Nyheim Hines, Jonathan Taylor, and the 2021 106. I really like that trade a lot, I'll be honest. Then Philip Lindsay, Quintez Cephas, and the 2021 304. Carson Wentz, Terry McLaurin, and the 2022 first. James Robinson, and a 2021 209, 2021 309. That trade I really hated. That was obviously the whole ETN debacle we had the following day. Then I got Dak Prescott, the 2021 102, which was Najee Harris, 2021 402, and a 2022 second, and a 2022 third, and a 2022 fourth. And then the final piece I got for the gauntlet, and to make the gauntlet happen, the owner that didn't respond to nothing left. We replaced him, and then I made a trade with that owner. I got Henry Ruggs, Adam Troutman, who I am quite high on. I'll talk about here later on in the pod. And then I got a 2022 second. And then to add the last little sprinkles, I got Jonnu Smith and a 2021 203 and a 2022 third. I got Antonio Brown, and I got Mark Andrews. And Mark Andrews was the one where I dealt the Henry Ruggs and Jonnu Smith that I just received. So maybe gave up a little bit of value on those two players, but I got Mark Andrews, who I'm a little bit high on as well too. So it sets me up for the future. So obviously the gauntlet, we've been trying to get this going for the entire time, piece by piece, making trades with every single owner in the league. I can say I did it. I got the Infinity Stones here. I got them all here, clenched, ready to go. Now, hopefully I can just snap my fingers and just this season is where I finally become the winner for the first time in that league, but we'll see. And even if I'm not, my team's young, it's set up. And next year I've got 3 firsts, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and a fourth. So I'm I would like to say I dominated this draft, and I'm set up to dominate next year's draft as well. So I'm ready to rock. So that I guess when we were talking about the gauntlet, that was the what we call the League McLeague gauntlet, because that's our the league's name.
I'd say almost you have too many assets now. What are you going to do next year's draft? You're going
to have that's the problem. I got a lot of players like Quintez Cephas. I'm trying to go through the list here. I got like Quintez Cephas. I got Philip Lindsay. I got a lot of quarterbacks. I got I got 5 or 6 quarterbacks in a 1 QB league. So I got too many. So I can cut slack there. Kind of keep the ones I like. Antonio Brown, he's short-lived. He's probably just going to be this year for me, maybe 2 years to go. Yeah. So I and a lot of those 4th rounders I took this year, I'm going to know by next year if I can move on from them or not, So yeah, I know what you mean, because it was getting late in the draft. I was like, man, who am I going to drop for this pick? It was getting to the nitty-gritty, but we'll see. Maybe I'll be able to flip a couple of young players for a veteran and make a playoff push this year. But regardless,
I was impressed with your gauntlet around here. A lot of the guys you gave up and got here is like you got young assets and you got multiple young assets for proven players, but your young assets are pretty proven, like AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin, and Jonathan Taylor. Like you got some young guys that already have proven they can produce, so it's
I'm
pretty good.
I'm hoping to set the dynasty up. Hit the reset button and hopefully we're moving forward. I missed the window on the previous rebuild I did, so I'm hoping to be able to hit the window on this one. So only time will tell on that. But obviously a little bit of a long-winded intro here before we get into our actual segment. But we had a lot to share because it seemed like a lot happened in the last 2 weeks here for us as we were getting ready to move forward. So
Yeah,
any comments here before we hit it off with our very first segment, Armin?
let's get her done.
Right on. All right. So insiders and headliners, a little bit shorter, sweeter here, I guess, for this one. Couple signings, couple waves. So Lions waived Kerryon Johnson, who was the 43rd overall pick. I was really pumped when they made that pick. And unfortunately, he just caught the injury bug and just couldn't shake it. Like you mentioned earlier, he is quite young. He was waived and then picked up quite early by Philly and now adds to a little bit of a crowded backfield there. Now, who's going to stick around, who's going to get cut before the season debut, I'm not too sure. But like you mentioned, that was part of the whole getting for the fourth rounder. You're going to know right away. You can let him go, or he has a little bit of upside moving forward on your team too, right?
Yeah, and he has a good shot of having a good role on this team. He's actually one of the better pass protection running backs in the league. So with that upside, he's a 3-down back who's caught the injury bug. So he could carve out a nice little role for himself here.
For sure. Then adding on the randomness of signings here, Tim Tebow with Jacksonville. A little bit of head scratcher. I mean, you've seen the video there where he ran that, I don't know, like a pretty banana looking route and didn't get his head around in time. Ends up wearing the football in the dome. He's never had a professional catch, but he's going to try it out at tight end there for Jacksonville. Kelvin Benjamin, after taking a hiatus for a couple of years, is coming back and signed by the Giants as a tight end as well. And then Blake Bortles to Green Bay to add a little bit of discussion, I guess, on once again what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. So three relatively minor signings, but enough that be able to stir the pot a little bit and host some conversations about fantasy football too. So
yeah, they're kind of just let's see what happens.
exactly.
They're kind of fun, two guys switching positions. So
yeah, I'm do you think I'll ask you straight up, do you think the Tim Tebow thing is going to pan out, or do you think it's just a little bit of just everybody just wants news to talk about at this point?
I don't think so, but I put a waiver request on him in a dynasty league. I won't tell you which one, but I did, and I was like, let's have some fun with that.
Yeah. Hey, long shots.
He's built the right way. He has the speed to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, if he can figure out how to catch the ball and run routes, that's something that can be taught. Let's see if he can do it.
A good start is putting in the hands on off the forehead, I guess, but somebody will tell him that. He'll figure it out. Yeah. While we were away too, the NFL released the schedule. Obviously, we know that it's going from 17 week to the 18 weeks, so teams are playing 17 games instead of 16 games. Obviously, we got a couple marked down on the schedule there. The Vikings and Lions, which we'll have to have a little bit of wagers on. I might have to get 2-1 odds or something because my Lions are going to be long shots for those. But week 5 at Minnesota and then week 13 at Detroit. So obviously we got those marked on the schedule. But anything maybe you and then actually I'll come back to that. Anything you got to mention there? Maybe some takeaways from the schedule.
It's the schedule. I don't look too deep into it. Teams are always changing, and it's too much to try and determine, especially with Dynasty in mind. Try and really play the schedule game too much.
It's exciting to be able to talk football because now it's reality. Now we know who we're playing, when we're playing, see the path to success or failure. I guess like some teams, it looks like. Well, I remember last year we said Buffalo looks like they had the hardest schedule and they just lit the league on fire and they were a game away from the Super Bowl. So. Like you said, anything. It's too early to tell, and anything can happen because it's the NFL, and that's why the games are played like you've mentioned. Yeah. The one thing I'm going to mention, so Super Bowl 56 was scheduled. Okay, it's scheduled for February 13th 2022 in LA's sick new stadium. So, first of all, pretty excited for that. But I'm going to mention, I think the NFL screwed this up a little bit. I think they missed an opportunity. Okay. First of all, I don't think too many wives, girlfriends, and fiancés are going to be too excited that we're going to be glued to a TV on the Sunday before for Valentine's Day. Not too many people are maybe going to be going out for the dinner on the Monday, so maybe Sunday was going to be your day. Well, sorry, it's Super Bowl Sunday, so I feel like there might be some upset ladies or significant others, I guess, in the house for that one. So thank you very much, NFL. But here's what I'm thinking. Okay, how many times have you heard people say the Monday after the Super Bowl needs to be a holiday? Because it's always usually like February 5th, February 6th, right?
Should be.
Make the Monday a holiday. Okay, why don't we add a bye week before the playoff starts, or we push the season to start a week after? So our week one start date gets pushed back a date, back 1 week. The United States and Canada have that Monday as a holiday. For Canada, it's Family Day, and the United States, I can't remember exactly what the actual holiday is, but they have the Monday off as well too, which means that the Monday after the Super Bowl would be a holiday. So everybody can go celebrate, do whatever they want to do on Super Bowl, and we'd have the Monday off. I think the
That'd be
NFL,
perfect.
I think they missed out on that one. Push the
Yeah.
week back, push the start date back a bit. We'd start,
Especially this year with them tinkering with the schedule and
yeah,
everything.
and the bye, and like you get the 3 preseason, and then you get like almost like a bye week preseason, like a prep week or whatever.
Yeah.
Just push it back a week, man. How decent would it be for us to be firing up the Super Bowl on Sunday, crush some wings, have a few drinks, watch the game with buddies? Hopefully, COVID's a thing of the past. We can actually get together and watch the game together. And then the game's done at like 11 o'clock, whatever. You're done and socializing, and you can just sleep in the next day. How nice would that? Like, that's a dream. That's a
You wouldn't
dream.
have to worry about a thing. You just, oh yeah,
Oh, fire up
Super
some
Bowl.
brunch the next day and talk about the Super Bowl. Like, yeah, I could
Oh,
get behind that. Thanks, NFL. I think we missed the mark there, but
I
I thought that
think,
was worth mentioning.
yeah, maybe we should try and get some steam rolling on this through the
Yeah.
pod here.
Hey, this is the first year they're changing things up, so I think maybe they'll realize that we maybe screwed this up a little bit. We'll change something next week or next year. Sorry, we get to give it for the people, give them what they want. So a little bit shorter one for insiders and highlighters. Nothing too crazy going on. As obviously the season progresses, we'll be able to get a few extra pieces of information and news maybe to be able to speculate on. But we'll get ourselves back into keep trade cuts here. We took a week off last time, and we'll get her going here. So with this episode being sleepers and gambles, we're gonna go on some sophomore wide receivers that maybe haven't had the boom yet. So maybe some sleeper picks from the sophomore receivers: Denzel Mims from the Jets, Jalen Reagor from Philadelphia, and Laviscus Chenault Jr. from Jacksonville Jaguars. So keep trade cut, Armand. What you doing?
All right, I am cutting Denzel Mims. Okay, it's a busier receiving core with Corey Davis there now, and then his name blanks me right now. Crowder with Davis and Crowder, and I didn't love Mims as a prospect necessarily. And then you add that along with the Shanahan coaching tree coming in.
Well, and Elijah Moore coming into town too.
Yeah, and they're gonna you got to suspect there'll be a little bit heavier run from the Shanahan coaching tree, and busy receiving core. The opportunities won't be there. And last year, out of these 3 guys, he caught the lowest percentage of his passes. He only caught 52% of his passes and no touchdowns. So he didn't always make the most of his opportunities when he got them. So I'm going to cut Denzel Mims. Jalen Reagor, I'm going to trade him. Okay. I think you sell him that he could be potentially the number 1 target in this offense. Pointing out the unknowns surrounding Smith's size in the NFL and how it will translate. And trade him while you can still convince people that he could be the number 1 target before Smith becomes the number 1 target. And a lot has changed in Philly. So we have no idea how the chips are going to fall there as far as how they're going to run their offensive system, who's going to be the number 1 receiver. Is Jalen Hurts? Is he going to want to go to Reagor? Is he going to want to go to Smith? I don't know. So sell that he has the potential to be the number 1, and let's get rid of him. And then keep Chenault. He was the most productive of the three, so it sounds like it's easy. But you look at it, he caught the highest percentage of his passes again at 73% of his targets, and he had the most touchdowns at 5 touchdowns. And this team should be better this year, but should still be in neutral and negative game scripts. So a lot of throwing the ball still. And he was producing with Westbrook, Connolly, and Chark in that lineup last year. So now it's Connolly and Marvin Jones. I'm right with Connolly, right?
Yeah,
I get Chark and Connolly mixed up all the time.
Yeah, Chark's still there. Conley is with, I believe, Houston now.
Okay, so Chark and Jones there.
Yeah, Marvin.
He could have the potential to be the number one guy there as well, and they'll be throwing the ball a lot. So I keep Chanel.
Yeah, I think for me, well, I'm with you on the Chanel. I think he's got the most capability of being the one where he can surprise people a little bit and probably take over for Chark. I know Chark's like pretty high and people are high on him. So Chanel, you could probably get a little bit cheaper than Chark. I think out of the three, I think he's got the capability of being the one more. So that's what, and I agree with you on that. But the only thing I flip flop a little bit is I'm gonna trade Mims and I'm gonna cut Rieger just because I think out of the three, he has the lowest potential of becoming the one. And I think Devonta Smith coming in there was clear cut that, well, we missed. And they've missed a few times in Philly on the receivers. But the interesting thing about all three of these, they all three have things that are changing, right? New OCs, new offensive schemes, new quarterbacks, whatever it is, right? So all three of them have the potential to be the one because if you get that connection with the quarterback, it's just, I see the path to success being smaller for Rieger. So that's why I'm going to cut bait with him. Where in with Denzel Mims in the Jets, new quarterback coming. We don't know who the one is yet because he hasn't really had that opportunity to try and meld with anybody yet. Where who knows? I think Crowder's on the outside looking in. I think that they're not going to resign him moving forward. So I think they're going to be going forward with Elijah Moore and with Denzel Mims. So then Mims, I think, has that opportunity to potentially be the one where it's a little bit difficult for Rieger. So, I mean, very similar comments you had. And I think you couldn't really argue anybody with going 1, 2, 3 either way because they are all dealing with different situations. But I'm going to keep Chanel as well, but I'm going to cut Rieger and I'm going to trade Mims. Just like I said, just that's the way I see of potentially the percentages shaking down for being a one. So
yeah, like I texted you when we were making this one up. I was like, man, that's a tough one actually. Like
yeah,
with all the changes and they're very similar.
And it's all up to chance. I think like they all three have the potential. But just with situation, I think, and where teams are going, even though right now with the Jets, it does seem crowded. I think you look there in a couple of years, I think they have their guys they want to move forward with. And I think that they're going to move on from Crowder. So, but who knows? I think, like I said, we're all this whole offseason stuff's a lot of speculations. Be interested in listening to some of these back a little bit and be like, man, why did we want to get rid of Rieger? That's so stupid. But who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
All right. Off-season segment, this one. I know I've been looking forward to this one. We've kind of put some hints out there and a little bit of tidbits and said these are some guys maybe I'd be targeting on the cheap or guys you should be watching out for, et cetera, et cetera. So this off-season segment we're doing here is sleepers and gambles. So myself and Armand are both going to pick 2 sleeper picks and kind of talk about whether from a dynasty perspective or a redraft perspective. And then we also have 2 gambles picks where it's like it could be a big payday or it could also be left kind of sitting there just counting your losses kind of thing, right? So very similar to my James Robinson pick I traded for before the draft. That was a big gamble. If the whole ETN thing didn't happen, I'd be laughing because I'm sitting there with Robinson and with Supreme stock and I got him for on the lower end of the price spectrum, or I could be sitting here with Travis Etienne and Robinson trying to battle it out, and obviously it didn't pan out. So that's kind of the whole idea of the gamble picks, where it could be boom or it can be bust. So you gotta maybe have a little. You gotta be. I guess it's not for the weak of hearts to try and maybe go for some of these gamble picks, but we'll just get right into it. I'll start it off with my sleeper pick number 1, and I'm big into this guy, Chris Carson. Okay, I think he's being slept on, and we've mentioned it. I can't remember if it was the 2 podcasts ago or whatever, but I think he's been slept on his entire career. He's been putting up unbelievable numbers year in, year out with a kind of a crowded backfield, to be honest. And everybody's like, no, he just keeps sliding down the ADP sliding. Right now, his average draft position is the 401. 4th round for Chris Carson. And
Pretty good.
And who else is left in the backfield? Like, I'm going to look right now. They have Rashad Penny, who has played like 20 snaps his entire career. He's been hurt his entire career. They got Travis Homer, which I'm not too concerned about. And then they had the rookie last year, DJ Dallas, who only got snaps because they didn't have a single healthy back. They didn't sign anybody in the offseason. They didn't have draft capital to go after anybody. So they said Chris Carson is our guy. They signed him. Everybody's just tried to scare him. They were trying to sell him because they didn't think that Seattle was going to sign him. And, well, lo and behold, Seattle bucked up and they paid Chris Carson. Hey, well, I thought, okay, this is going to skyrocket his ADP. He's the only guy left in town, and especially in redrafts. Well, running backs, if you have a good running back, you win. Like, that's what you need. You need the good running backs, and that's what puts up the big points, right? But no, he's going down even more. Last year's average draft position was kind of at the end of the second, early third. Well, now he's even lower. And I guess the whole thing is, well, injuries. He's always hurt. Well, of the entire running backs that were in, I think, the top 20 last year, only 3 or 4 of them played an entire 16-game season. So it just, every running back misses time. That's just the way it is. So when you write a guy off, especially the running back position because of injuries, I think it's kind of almost foolish, especially a guy like this that's put up really good points while he's been healthy. And he did miss like significant time last year with the injuries, but when he's been on the field, he's been dominant, and he catches the ball and he has a nose for the end zone. He lost a little bit last year when Hyde came in, and Hyde didn't have many opportunities until Carson got hurt. But then it kept seeming like, okay, Hyde's finding the end zone. So that's where Carson's numbers went down a little bit because of not finding the end zone. But now he's set up for success, but his ADP keeps dropping. Now, this, whether you take it from like a redraft perspective or a dynasty, I'd be going to get him right now. Like, I'm trying to get Chris Carson all over the place because I feel like he is, once again, you can probably get cheaper because guys sleep on him. Always hurt all the time, always getting older. Well, man, Seattle is saying they want to run the ball more. Well, who's going to run the ball more? Rashad Penny? I don't think so. Like, Chris Carson is going to be up for a workload like nobody's business this year. And if you can get him in the 4th round, like, that sets you up where you can go RB in the 1st round, then you can go maybe 2 stud receivers, and then you're going to take Chris Carson as your number 2 running back. Yeah, I'm going to love that. Like, he's going around players, so in the range of redraft right now, he's going in the range of guys like Mike Evans, Julio Jones, Kareem Hunt, Chris Godwin, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Justin Jefferson, David Montgomery, among other names. So that's kind of the range he's going. And looking at that list, okay, and if I go running back heavy, then I'm interested in maybe like a Julio or a Justin Jefferson, and Godwin has his own gambles there with kind of the busy backfield that is, or busy receiving core that is Tampa. But when you look at those lists, like Kareem Hunt, no, I'd take Chris Carson for sure. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Chris Carson for sure. David Montgomery, Chris Carson for sure. And I think there's where you're going to see some arguments. Maybe some guys want to go Montgomery over Chris Carson, but I am in total disagreement. When you have a guy that has that workload and he is primed, ready to go for a 17-game season, he's going to miss time, much the same like we've proven a lot of running backs do. And that's just the way it is. It's a tough position to play, man, and it's hard on the body. Being an NFL running back, there's a reason your shelf life is so much smaller than any other position. And Chris Carson, once again, we say it again and again and again, he's being slept on, and the 401 ADP is stupid. And I'm going to end up having Chris Carson on a lot of my teams moving forward next year.
Unless I get him first.
Yeah, no, that's the problem. I tell Armand all my ideas, and we're going to have very similar teams going into a lot of our drafts next year. But
I've always liked Chris Carson, and like you said, like he's being slept on. This is like the first year going into the season where he is the clear number 1 in Seattle. Like why is he so low?
And it's going the other direction. It doesn't make any sense. Anyhow, let's hear your number 1 sleeper.
All right. So I just want to start off by saying I avoided receivers and sleepers. I went straight RBs here, because the difference between the like 2nd tier to like the 4th tier guys and receivers is that point differential just isn't that much anyways. So they're not that much of a sleeper in my mind. I'm looking for like that bigger payoff kind of thing. So my first sleeper is Josh Jacobs. People are selling him like he lost the starting spot in Las Vegas. When in reality, I think it's just they upgraded their backup. You know, they had Booker last year. They upgraded their backup to Kenyon Drake. who is he really that much of an upgrade from last season's production of Kenyon Drake? I don't know, but Booker had almost 100 touches last year, and Jacob still had in the high 200s of touches in the backfield. So um, I think Jacob's position as RB21, he could produce at a top 10 level next year, and you're getting him at RB21, so an RB2, RB3 range there, and he could be an RB1 for you. I think that's awesome. Like you draft him there, you could get that top 10 potential. At worst, he's going to give you an RB2 numbers, which is where you'll be drafting him at anyway. So I think that's definitely someone worth saying that people are sleeping on him. And in Dynasty, you buy him now while everyone else is selling him. Like,
Yeah.
why not?
I'm caught between the rock and a hard place. I had him in a lot of leagues, and I've sold him in a couple, and I've kept him in a couple. And yeah, when you try and sell him, people don't want to pay the Josh Jacobs dollar amount. So I think you kind of and like I said, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. But I totally agree with you. Like we've had this conversation. Like Devonta Booker was there, and he's had the exact, like, a lot of people are penciling in the same amount of targets or touches, I guess, as Booker. So it's like, well, what's that leave Jacobs? The exact same workload as he had last year. So it's just a matter if it's going to get eaten into a little bit more or not. So, but I'm in total agreement with you there.
Yeah.
I'll go into my sleeper number 2, and I'll mention honorable mention. I wanted to do Antonio Brown for this one because his ADP of 1005, which I think is silly. I think if you can get Antonio Brown in the 10th round and potentially have Tom Brady's favorite target moving forward as your receiver 3, 4, 5, whatever that is in the 10th round, yeah, that's kind of crazy. So I wanted to do it just because of his ADP, but I had to do this one because, once again, put my money where my mouth is, went out and got him. I'm trying to get him in another league as well too. Adam Troutman. Okay, Adam Troutman. If you are in the landscape that you need a tight end, so this one maybe goes to a little bit more like the dynasty perspective, I guess, not so much the redraft. It could have redraft perspective or implications, I guess, moving into this year too. It's just a little more unlikely. He might have to wait a little bit more because he is pretty new. He's 24 years old. He was drafted in the 2020 draft, third round, pick 105. He's 6'5", 255. So he's a big boy. Okay, in New Orleans, when they drafted him in the third round, they only had 4 picks that year. So they prioritized making sure that they were going to get Adam Troutman when really they didn't need him because they had Jared Cook, they had Hill, they had the bodies. So they wanted to be able to pick up a tight end for moving forward. So eventually, when they didn't have them, they had their guy. And when people say Cook and Hill left in free agency, they didn't leave. They were cut. They were let go. They said, go someplace else, which left them with just Adam Troutman. And I know he hasn't really proven it yet, but this is an opportunity to get him really, really cheap and then potentially have the boom. Like, look at how cheap Zach got Kittle a couple of years back, like for pennies on the dollar. And now if you try and buy Kittle now, it's going to cost you 2, 3 first at least. Like you can't buy top end tight ends without paying premium dollar. So you kind of got to call your shot when it comes to the tight end position. I think he has an opportunity to be that. In ADP, he's going the 14th round, late 14th, 15th, or not even drafted whatsoever. So, I mean, you can literally just take a flyer on him on your last pick in the draft and hope for the best. But he's an excellent run blocker, which means we talked about this already. If you're an excellent run blocker, you're on the field more, and more on the field more means more opportunities. And with Cook and Hill leaving, that leaves 32% of their targets because that was soaked up between those two. So who's going to soak them up? Michael Thomas, he's still there. Okay, well, who else is there that's going to get these targets? So they have to go somewhere. And I'm not saying Adam Troutman's going to get all 32% of the target share, but he's going to get some of it. And with new quarterbacks going in there, I think anything's possible. So literally, you can get Adam Troutman for nothing. You can get him as a throw-in maybe for trades. So I think he's a true sleeper, but you might have to be patient with him. Look, he is a young tight end, and it's going to go into my hot take a little bit later on. With young tight ends, you really have to be patient, as obviously the breakout age is a little bit later in comparison to other positions. So sleeper number 2 is Adam Troutman.
All right. My sleeper number 2 here, I have Kareem Hunt. So a lot of people don't realize this, but he finished in at least half point PPR. here at the RB10 on the season last year. Now I know there's a lot of injuries to top end guys too in there, but he put up and some people say, Chubb was injured for a little bit, so that gave him some more opportunity. But he put up his two best weeks last year while Chubb was healthy. So 2 games that Chubb played were his 2 best weeks. Then his 3rd and 4th were with Chubb gone. But like he can still put up good numbers with Chubb there. And then if Chubb goes down, he is right away gonna be an RB1. And you can get him again in that RB3 range of draft picks, and he can put up RB2 numbers all season long. We know that he's going to be at worst in RB2, and he could be RB1 if Chubb goes down, and he could even be RB1 if Cleveland is just dominating and running the ball all the time.
Oh yeah.
So and everybody's picking Cleveland to be a force to be reckoned with again this year, even better than last year. So, I think Kareem Hunt's being slept on there. Yeah.
I think they might be Super Bowl favorites. Like they got to be one of the higher on if you're going to gamble on it for preseason bets on who's going to the Super Bowl. Now they got to be one of the probably top 5, top 4.
Gotta be.
Like I'd say Tampa, KC. Then you're getting into maybe Buffalo, then maybe Cleveland. Like that's probably your top 4.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Maybe Green Bay if Rodgers stays there, like maybe in the conversation.
Yeah.
And so I don't disagree with you. I'm a little bit skeptic with what happened when he was a lead back and he didn't really get the numbers. But it's such a phenomenon because he just puts up better numbers while he is the secondary back, which seems so bizarre that if you're the workhorse, you're going to get more touches, produce more points, but it seemed almost backwards. But he's just the guy that, like you said, he's a prime sleeper because you can always get him later, but he's always, if he's your RB2, you're laughing because you're never going to get less than 8 points. Like he's just Eddie. It's just, what else more do you want from your RB2, RB3 kind of thing, right?
And like I watched a lot of Browns games last year, and there was times he was on the field with Chubb too.
Yeah.
Like it's not like they're one's on the field, one's off. They sometimes are both on the field, and Hunt's lining up in the slot.
Yeah, he's an unbelievable pass catcher.
Yeah, ridiculous for an RB of his size. Like, it's wild.
So those are sleepers. Gambles. These, like I mentioned, these are the ones that it can hurt you if it doesn't pan out. And my first one, I might get a little bit of rough feedback on this one, but I'm gonna go with Jonathan Taylor. I know that seems kind of silly because I just traded for him and he's going to be he's probably my lead back in my dynasty team right now, but with an ADP of 107. So he's the 7th player in redrafts off the board right now. And in dynasty, you almost can't get him. You're going to have to pay up. Like I paid primo bucks. I sold the farm to get him and I went all in. So if it doesn't pan out, I lost on a lot of good players. And in redraft, your first round, I always take the chance that you want to avoid risk in the first round. So guys that are potentially suspended, guys that have or maybe missed some time because they're still coming off of surgery from the previous season, whatever it is, you want to try to avoid as much risk as you can the first round. And Jonathan Taylor,
old adage of don't you can't win the fantasy season in the first round, but you can sure lose it.
Exactly. So last year, guys that took like CEH 107, 108, 109, I know they're kicking themselves a little bit, right? I know we've seen Jonathan Taylor be elite, but part of the problem is we haven't seen him yet do it with all the players around him, right? We haven't seen with Marlon Mack yet. The reason he started getting all those touches was because Marlon Mack got hurt, right? And then they re-signed him. Naeem Hines is still there, and he had an unbelievable season. So he has the built-in risk already, and that backfield could be crowded. Then you take away the receiving work because Phillip Rivers loves the check down. Now, we don't really know what we're going to get with Wentz, right? He might check down as well and feed him the ball. Maybe now Taylor gets to go to the goal line a lot more. But there's a lot of risk. So in redrafts, I think, but it's one of those ones where it could boom, right? You can get him at 107. You're like, holy man, like I got this year's Saquon Barkley. I got this year's Christian McCaffrey, and he could be the number one running back the entire season. You got him at the 107. That's how you win leagues. So you have to take a bit of a gamble, but is a gamble in the first round? I don't know, because in the first round, really, you're going to get good players, right? Like last year, you got Michael Thomas in the first round. That kind of sucks a little bit. Or you got Saquon, you got hurt. You know what I mean? Like there's all these players that couldn't get hurt in the first round. But when you add the extra risk, you got to add that on top of the injury, on top of things that could happen with your first round players, which is difficult to do. Now, Dynasty, you're rolling with him, right? Like I think he is the future. He is going to be elite. But redraft, you hit the reset button every single year. So in redrafts, he's going around guys like Nick Chubb. So he's going in front of guys like Nick Chubb, Zeke, Devonta Adams, Aaron Jones, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Hopkins, Kelsey. He's going in front of all those players. And now we talked about our draft strategy a little bit. I don't want to give too much away, but like when you get that tier break of running backs, then you start kind of thinking about, okay, maybe I'm going to go receiver, maybe I'm going to go Travis Kelsey with the basically you're starting two positions in the spot of one because you got the elite tight end upside. But man, 107 is a little bit steep, and who knows, that might even go up. It might go down as we get close to draft season. But I think it is a gamble pick. It could pay out, but it also comes with some serious potential repercussions as well with burning your first round pick with built-in risk.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I never thought of it, but as you say it makes sense, man.
Yeah. I don't think he'll be this year's CEH. Like I think he like, but you might be a little bit upset that the guys that maybe go in the second or third round might outproduce him. Like, who's to say Chris Carson in the fourth round might outproduce Jonathan Taylor? It's quite possible, right? He might go right in that same range. I mean, same. You could talk about Zeke. Like he might be in the same boat, right? You could take him in the 108, and maybe last year was what to show you, but you're taking on added risk in the first round, and that's a tough sell when you can take what is close to as a guarantee or at least less risk as possible. Anyways, your gamble number one there, Armin.
All right, my gamble number one is Mostert at RB. He's an RB 28, so he's not a round one gamble like yours. But I'd say if you reach for him in that round two to give him as your RB2, right? You could be laughing if it goes off because whoever wins that San Fran backfield will have elite production, and it's no secret, everybody knows that. But nobody knows who it's going to be. You have legit four guys who could have that role. The first is Mostert. The second is Wilson. Third is Sermon, and I think all three of those guys are coming into camp and they're hitting it almost at the same level to steal that lead role. And then you even have Elijah Mitchell, who I talked about as my sleeper pre-draft, and he has all the talent and skill set to take that role as well. He may not be coming in with the pedigree of the other guys and the production, but man, he could definitely steal that role as well if he comes in with a strong camp. So taking Mostert, it's a gamble, but it could pay off really well.
Yeah. Well, and have you heard that interview with Kyle Juszczyk at all? It was pre-draft, but he was going off about Mostert and how he thinks he's going to be like legit this year. Look out for him. And actually Juszczyk, he plays fantasy football. So he's like, I'm going to be all in on Mostert this year going in. He's like, I want him. He's going to be elite. He looks good. He looks fast. He's ready to go. And that was pre-draft before they took Sermon there. But I was like, man, all of a sudden everybody's hot and bothered about him. It's like, all right, I got a couple shares of it. I like the sounds of this. I'm all in. And then they take Sermon. So we'll see what happens. But like you said, it was kind of like it's kind of like the old saying, like cream rises to the top. And I think once again in that situation, cream's going to rise to the top, and the lead back will show. And like you mentioned, the lead back in San Francisco is going to be valuable. It's just you got to call your shots because you're not going to be able to get all three of them. So you got to be able to call your shot and hope you hit right.
This is one where it's going to be real hard to predict who is the cream in this scenario.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think they all have the opportunity and they all have the potential.
Yeah.
Okay, my gamble pick number 2, and this I'm going to say it's more of a redraft perspective, but I think at the same time in Dynasty, if you want to take the one year flyer on him, you could probably get him pretty cheap right now in dynasty leagues because I think a lot of people are shook on him with how the draft went down. But when you look at probabilities and the opportunity that maybe this player is guaranteed to lose his starting position, I don't think is locked. I think a lot of people are in the mindset of that. So I think people are pretty concerned about it and would probably sell him really, really cheap. Now in Dynasty, you might only get the 1 year from him. But in redraft, like I said, you hit the rebutton and everything's moving on. So my gamble pick number 2 is Melvin Gordon from Denver. His current ADP is the 504. So once again, it's the whole first couple of rounds of all the superstars have kind of gone on. And if you can get that back in Denver, I think they're going to be pretty good this year. Not that I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the reason why all of a sudden they're Super Bowl contenders. I just think they have a lot of weapons. I think they're going to be a good offense. Also, their defense is really incredible, so they might be running the ball even more if they're obviously ahead in games. So if you have that back, and obviously Javonte Williams went there, so it could be an immediate split back. It also could be maybe where Javonte takes a little bit of time to develop, and Melvin still is the guy. And to be able to get a lead back in the 5th round, like the middle 5th round, is pretty juicy. And I think he was a guy that I was pretty high on before the draft, telling guys I would be buying him. Right, he's the only guy in town. They might draft a running back, but I still think like he's got a lot of value on him. So he's the only guy there pre-draft. He's got the goal line work. He's one of those guys that just has a nose for the end zone. He's always finding the end zone. Even when he's declining on skill set, he's still finding the end zone and he can catch the football. Okay. Like I mentioned, the risk is that Denver traded up to get Javonte, which means that they really, really like him. So they're going to give him as much opportunity as they possibly can. And it could be a split or Javonte could take over. But I think that's one of those things that's built-in risk. But in the 5th round, I'm willing to take a little bit of risk and maybe be able to hit on one of those because, like we know in our redraft leagues, it's like Armand had mentioned, you don't win your draft in the first 2 rounds, but you sure win it later on when you take some of those gambles and you get those big hitters. So guys that are going around him in the 5th round: Cooper Kupp, Brandon Ayuk, Hawkinson, Golladay, Deontay Johnson, a couple quarterbacks, DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson. Sorry, I mentioned Deontay Johnson already, but also Johnson from Houston, Fournette, Rojo, Edmonds. Like you look at some of those backs, like Rojo, Edmonds. Okay, Edmonds maybe. Rojo probably not. Fournette probably not. David Johnson really probably not. And then you're starting to get into some of like the middling receivers, which you can make up the groundwork on those middling receivers in the later rounds where running backs, you really can't do that. So I think in the 5th round to get a potential workhorse back is pretty juicy. So if he ends up dominating the backfield and maybe Javonte takes a little bit of time to develop, you got a steal in the 5th round there too. So like I said, a little bit more from the redraft perspective, but even dynasty, if you throw a 3rd rounder and maybe you'll end up getting Melvin Gordon, who really knows, but you might be like I said, a little bit of risk, but it could also pay out pretty heavily as well.
Yeah. All right. So my gamble, I'm actually going to pull an audible and go off of where I was going to tell you. I was originally going Gaskins here, but I'm switching it to David Montgomery for my gamble pick here for number 2. He's been slated in on Fantasy Pros as RB19. He finished RB4 last year, so another guy kind of like Mostert here, where he could finish high elite production, but he also has had a season or 2 seasons of like being a bum.
Yeah.
So
taking a little longer to develop.
Yeah. So I think you get him in the 2nd round here. He could be your RB2, and he is a little bit more of a gamble, right? He could end up only being RB3 production on the season. Who knows, right? But he could end up being RB1 production in that top 5 range again.
His stretch down the season was incredible. Like he single-handedly was winning guys their leagues down the week 13, 14, 15, 16. It was incredible. Like you were scared to see David Montgomery. Now, is it a product of schedule or a product of talents? And maybe it's a combination of both. But like you said, that's a little bit of the built-in risk, obviously, that comes with a guy like Montgomery.
Yeah. and then the risk that comes with it too is Justin Fields being there now, and he's a guy who could run the ball. You know, he's a running quarterback. So that could eat into Montgomery's production, which makes it even more of a gamble, right? So he is a guy, could be elite, but you're gambling on it. But you know, at the RB19, I mean, he could slide even further yet. You know, there's a lot of guys that don't believe in him. So you could kind of sit there and let some guys flow by, pick a few receivers or something, or elite receivers, and then go for Monty after that.
Almost a zero RB, but take just going all in on those big names, right? Like getting the Hopkins, getting the Jeffersons, getting those types of guys, and then trying to gamble on the running backs at the later.
I think that would be the only way he ends up being your RB1 is if
Exactly.
you do your RB. And
having him as maybe RB2, RB3 with the upside, I guess it maybe takes a little bit of the gamble out of it, I guess. But at the same time, you might be thin at receiver position. But like if I told you right now, Armand, David Montgomery is your running back one, are you comfortable with that?
No,
but
that's what makes it a gamble.
Exactly. If I told you running back 2, running back 3, all of a sudden you're like, okay, like you're not relying, right? So, but that's like you said, the built-in risk that comes with drafting David Montgomery. So,
yeah.
Well, that'll do it for our sleepers and our gambles. Obviously, we got lots more. We'll be kind of sharing little tidbits throughout the podcast here, especially as we get close to draft season, and we'll dive into a few names a little bit more that we're kind of all in on, guys, come draft season, just because of their ADP and stuff like that. But that'll do it for that segment for this episode. We're wrapping things up as per usual. The ice cold hot takes. I know mine's spicy on this one, and Armand's not going to like it. I don't know if he's actually got a chance to see it yet, but we'll let him go first, and then I'll come in hot with my second one.
All right. I'm going to go with something that I guess I've kind of been hearing rumblings about it. And the reason I picked it, though, is because a few weeks ago we learned about a former student and a current student at our school who's been listening to the pod, and their favorite team is the Cowboys. So I was like, I got to do a hot take on the Cowboys. So here we go with my Cowboys hot take, and I'm going to continue the trend of RB talk here. And there's a lot of rumbling about Pollard being the more talented back now than Zeke. That Zeke is starting to get a little washed up, and Pollard is actually the better back. I am going to say in my hot take, we're going to see Zeke come out this season. He's going to be the starter. He's going to be getting tons of touches. I don't think Pollard's going to take over, but I'm going to say that it's going to be more of a backfield by committee by the end of the season with the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, I hope not. I hope not.
No, that's my hot take. It might not be too popular, but I'm seeing the writing on the wall, and
he looked good. Like he actually did look good when Zeke was out. That was it week 15, maybe, when Zeke was out.
Yeah,
and he went out for like 160 yards and 2 or 3 scores or something. Like it was like, okay, this is silly. Like,
well, and that's the thing, is he showed that. So it's not like Zeke has to fall off the map completely for Pollard to be the better back.
Yeah.
I mean, Pollard is showing he can be elite production. Zeke just needs to fall just a little bit, or continue on the trend that he's been doing,
He's hitting that age where it's starting to get sketchy, Is he 26, coming into 27? It's RB shelf life. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I hope that does not happen,
and he's seen a lot of touches.
Zeke's a guy that I'm interested. If you get in the back end of redrafts where you're sitting at like the 8th or 9th pick, or if you can hit Zeke on the front end and then hit like a guy like Eckler on the back end, and you're going 1-2 punch with Zeke and Eckler, yeah, I'm all in on that. So I'm really hoping that Zeke, because this is going to be the latest you're going to get Zeke in redrafts in a long time, since when he was going to hold out, right?
Yeah.
Then he was still going in those early 5 picks because people are willing to take the risk on that. But man, I hope that doesn't happen. Oh, that'd be super disappointing. Okay. So Armand, brace yourself for this one, because you're not going to like to hear this. Okay. My hot take is, in dynasty drafts and rookie drafts, redraft, whatever perspective, I am 100% out on Kyle Pitts. 100%. Okay. Yeah.
That is hot though. That's completely against everybody.
Yeah. So here's why. Okay. The very, very best rookie season that's ever happened in Dynasty was by Evan Ingram in 2017. Okay. In 2017, he had 64 receptions, 722 yards, and 6 TDs, which landed him in half-point PPR leagues with 141.6 points, where he finished as the tight end 4 that year, but it could have finished as the 5th or the 6th because the difference between tight end 4 and tight end 6 was 4 points. Okay. And that's the very, very best rookie season that's ever happened. Now, right now, it's the very, very most expensive you're probably going to get Pitts, like to be able to purchase Pitts until after his breakout's already happened, right? So right now in rookie drafts, he's going like in single quarterback leagues, he's gone. I've seen him in the 101. I've seen him in 102. I've seen him 103, 104, a little bit more unlikely, but kind of he's landing in those spots, right? And then with super flex, I've seen him go anywhere between 1-1 and 1-6-ish, but even 1-6 once again, probably on the tail end. Maybe even 1-7
in super flex.
In super flex, I've seen him go maybe even 107. The 2-3 top end Qs, Chase, Harris, and then you're looking at like Pitts kind of in there, or Williams or ETN. So he's going right in that. Probably, I've seen him going 101 in Superflex 2, which is just stupid.
That's wild.
I don't get that anyways. But so it's the most expensive you're going to get him, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now look at guys. I'm going to come back to that point in a second here. Look at guys from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, TJ Hawkinson and Noah Fant. Okay. They were drafted in like the 105, 106, 107 range of the rookie drafts back then. And now we're just finally be able to reap the rewards of that draft pick. Okay. Now, last year or 2 years ago, if you wanted to trade for Noah Fant or Hawkinson, you probably could have got them for a second. You could have got them maybe for a late first. Maybe if guys are real desperate and real pissed off, you could have got them for even cheaper. Or like I got offered 107 or is it 107, 108 for Hawkinson. Well, he paid 105. So it's still cheaper draft equity than what you paid for him. Right. So here's where I mentioned guys need to be really patient with drafting rookie tight ends because it takes you time to develop. The average breakout for the average age for a breakout in a tight end position is 25 years old, the average, and that's kind of right where you're in the wheelhouse. And then the average top 12 tight end is aged around 27 years old. Okay, so you got to give them time to develop. You got to give them time to get used to the NFL. And guys are going to be choked that they drafted Pitts 101, 102, 103, 104, whatever it was, high draft equity. And you're going to have to wait a couple years to have him boom. Everybody's expecting Kyle Pitts is going to be a tight end 4 in redrafts next year. No, he's not. Okay, if he is literally breaking records because the best tight end rookie finish is tight end 4, where you got 141 points. Okay. So I'm completely out because he's going to cost so much, and the percentages are already stacked against him in redraft. So I'm all out. Okay, I'm going to call my shot on guys like Irv Smith in the 7th round or 8th round. I'm going to call my shots on guys like maybe Goddard in the 7th, or I'll buy Hawkinson in the 5th. Like, yeah, like I'd rather do something like that than go after Kyle Pitts and burn a pick because it's highly unlikely. Now, he is touted as a generational talent, but is that guaranteed? No. Is the percentage high? Even then, I don't know. So right now taking off my redraft cap and putting on my dynasty cap, you had to pay that high draft capital. Now, next season, who's more likely to be valuable for trade assets in the offseason? Najee Harris, Jamar Chase, or Kyle Pitts? Put them in order.
Probably Najee, then Chase, then Pitts.
Exactly. So guys that drafted Pitts above those guys, they're going to be pissed. All of a sudden, Harris is through the roof. Chase is through the roof. Maybe ETN is through the roof. Devonta Smith, maybe. Who knows? And then all of a sudden, Kyle Pitts finished as the tight end 10, 11, 12, much the same as rookie tight ends do. And they're like, holy man, I spent this high draft capital. Well, and maybe you can got a guy that's going to panic sell, and you can buy him for a second round pick, or a late first, or a second and a prospect. You can get them cheaper than you do now. So unless you, and I'm saying you, Armand, as an owner of Kyle Pitts, is willing to be patient, and I'm kind of choked that you got him, because I was hoping to be able to be like next year get him cheaper from somebody, which in a lot of leagues I'm going to. I'm gonna rapid fire offers for Kyle Pitts next year, because the percentage of people that are gonna be pissed off they drafted Pitts is gonna be high, because you have to be patient. Now, can he break that 141.6 points for a rookie tight end? Well, yeah, he's going to, because he's going to have 17 games instead of 16 games, right? He's going to do it. But for the game, if you take the points per game, if you take it on average, that's a lot of points. And as a rookie tight end, I just don't see it happening. So it's hot. I know guys might really disagree with me, but come next year, you guys watch this one over again, listen to this take, and see, can I get Pitts from the owner for cheap? Chances are you probably can, because they're going to be impatient. And that is my spicy hot take.
On the redraft perspective, I agree. Like, I'm not going to reach for him. I'm not going to be drafting him as if he is going to be like right behind Kittle and Andrews and them. I'm going to be, if I draft him in a redraft, it's going to be in that tight end 8-9 range. Dynasty, I'm happy to have him. I'm happy to wait on him. And let
You're
him
going to have to
develop.
be patient. That's the only problem. Because even if he finished, so here's the question: even if you finish, so say tight end 6 this year, are you really going to be happy with that, burning the top 3 redraft or top 3 dynasty picks for him?
In my team's position, I'll be fine with it.
You know what I mean? And you understand the scenario, right? But there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to be like, holy man, why did I do that? That was so stupid.
Yeah.
Like a lot of guys did with Fant and Hawkinson, right? So guys are panic selling them. You could have got them for pennies on the dollar, right? And I think there's going to be a scenario where that's going to happen for him moving forward too, until eventually that breakout. And when the breakout hits, you ain't getting them no more. Like you're paying Travis Kelce dollars, and that's going to happen. Like I had a conversation with a buddy of mine about fantasy football, and he says, "Well, he said, why wouldn't you take him the 1-1? The difference maker of a tight end position is worth so much. So why wouldn't you take him the 1-1? Because I'm not willing to wait. And I can buy him cheaper. Why would I pay the draft equity now when I assume I could probably get him cheaper later on, right? And you can get guys like Najee that could triple their value with one season. You get guys like Jamar Chase that can triple their value in one season. Even guys like Javonte, it might take a little bit too, and you might have to be patient with him. ETN, Devonta Smith. There's guys that like running backs and receivers where their value skyrockets earlier in the NFL. Where tight ends, like I said, the average breakout's 25 years old. Some of them it's later on, right? Sometimes you break the mold and you break out a little bit earlier. But who's to say, right? You got to be a little bit patient, and I will be just rapid firing out those offers for Kyle Pitts in the offseason. But
I'm happy to wait for him. I think he's gonna. I think he can. He has the potential to break that rookie record. Willie, that's not a for sure thing.
Yeah.
He is going to be generational though. So I predict an earlier breakout than the average tight end for sure. And you know what? The other thing with me picking him at 103 is almost like a tanking scenario too. If my team's not going to compete this year, I'll get another high draft pick next year.
And we'll be competing for which one, because I got 3 of them too.
Yeah.
Set up for the future, baby. I'll love to see it. I guess other than that, any last second little maybe comments or things to add here, Armin?
That Canadian perspective from the NFL draft with rookie dynasty guys that we might pick, skill position guys. Talked about Chuba, but we never talked about Josh Palmer, and he was close to being a sleeper for me today.
High draft equity.
Yeah, high draft equity. I watched his film, and he looks good. Yep. Like he high points the ball. He has good hands. Like never catches it with his body. He beats his guy, no matter whether it's speed or just reaching out for it. I actually like him. I'm really high on him. I'm sad I didn't get him in any dynasty drafts. That's actually at the 403 when I traded it away. It was as soon as Palmer was
He
picked. I
went
was like,
402, yeah.
yeah,
I think he's a guy you gotta be patient with too, because I think they drafted him to replace Mike Williams, and who's got 1 year left on his deal here, who's gonna end up walking.
yeah,
Unfortunately, the whole injury, same thing with Mike Williams. He plays so hard. He's almost got that Debo Samuel effect. You play too hard and you get hurt in the process. But he might fill that role, especially with a young up and coming quarterback like Herbert. Maybe they make that connection. Now you got the next young connection duo. So, and as a Canadian, obviously we want to see them succeed in that Canadian perspective too. So, yeah, I guess that'll do it for episode number 7 here. We took on the sleepers and gambles and talked about the gauntlet, recapped our draft a little bit, and obviously gave ourselves a little bit of a pump of the tires on how we did in our own home league drafts, and added a little bit of perspective for us in that sense as well too. So that'll do it for this episode. Once again, I'm Jordan, and on behalf of myself and Armand and the 306 hosts here, we appreciate you checking in here. And thanks for listening to episode number 7. Like us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, and if you enjoy the show, obviously like the platforms and share us on social media.
spread the word.
Absolutely. We're starting to grow. Each episode is getting bigger and bigger. So we appreciate everything you guys been doing for us. So thanks again. That was episode number 7. Take care, everybody, and have a good one.